How could it possibly get any worse? Here we are, Thanksgiving, just trying to pay attention. I log on occasionally to check the news just to make sure that, the world is still spinning. Out of control, but still spinning. And my wife says, I thought you said you weren't going to check the news. I said, I just have to see, does Israel still exist today? Has the stock market melted down around the world? Is Europe, have the stormtroopers come in yet into Greece? I just want to see. Is the president currently flying a drone over everyone's house who ever went to a Tea Party meeting or had tea? I just want to check. So I go online and I see the Solar Maximum event. And I'm like, oh, yeah, well, that doesn't have anything about Obama. I'm going to read that one. So I read about the Solar Maximum event. Now, this is, in case you don't know what the Solar Maximum event is, if Earth is struck by a large solar flare, some in the scientific community believe the planet will be hit with a widespread loss of power, air travel will be grounded, nuclear power plants will be crippled and without sufficient backup power, and dozens would melt down. Satellites would be disabled, causing serious loss of communication in all areas, military and civilian. Food and medicine would be in short supply because there's no refrigeration. There's no transportation. There's nothing.
So they're predicting food riots in that eventuality.
Yeah. Okay. But here's the good news. It could only last about 3 years. So after about 3 years, we
get
might
right
be
back up and running. Bam!
We got that thing. It's like Hurricane Katrina and Hurricane Sandy times 1,000,000 for just 3 short years. And then you just piece civilization right back together again.
Well, Katrina cost $150 million in damage, or $150 billion. I mean, right? Wasn't it $150 billion for Katrina? They estimate that a maximum solar flare could cost us up to $2 trillion. That's a pretty significant.
$2 trillion.
What is that among friends?
Whatever. Okay, so
it's a couple stimulus programs. What's the big deal?
Thank you.
Our power grid alone could be protected.
Yeah, for like what, $5 trillion?
No,
70 trillion, probably 70 trillion.
190 trillion bazillion gadrillion.
No, the power grid, cell phones, GPS, airline communications and guidance, and military could all be protected for $300 million. That was with an M, not a B. $300 million. Congress just said no.
Crazy. That is, if there's a 1 in a million chance, and there's a much bigger chance than that because it's hit us twice.
It's hit us twice. It hit us in 1859. We know of a time that it hit. It was called the Carrington event. The Carrington event was shocking. Why we don't know about this is beyond me. The Carrington event was in 1859 was so bad that the telegraph wires were literally set on fire. The solar flare, when it hit and hit the earth, it set all of the electrical wires, or not electrical, but all of the telegraph wires on fire.
Yeah, there were no electronics yet, but the telegraph system was really messed up. And telegraph operators had papers near the telegraph machine set on fire by this event. And it was such a powerful event that when they unplugged the telegraph system from the battery system, it still worked.
The electromagnetic pulse was so strong from the sun that even without battery power, you could still go click, 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 and it would still work.
It sent and received. That's phenomenal.
Okay. So the last time, that wasn't the last time it happened. That was the big time it happened in 1859 that we know of. And then it happened again in 1921. It was not nearly as bad because the surge wasn't as big. But it did the same kind of things where it blew out systems. Now, we just had 3 major solar flares. The sun is going into another major period of activity. It's a cycle. What a surprise. Maybe it's solar warming. Maybe there's Maybe there's sun people that are making SUVs on the sun. But there's something that humans have done to cause the sun to go into this very destructive cycle. And it happens all the time. And it's going into a very active cycle again. We had 3 major solar flares happen this weekend, and we're not protecting. Didn't we just spend $1 trillion? $1 trillion for our infrastructure. We can't spend $300 million to, I don't know, put some, what are those things called? Faraday cages around the power grid. We couldn't do that. It would protect us from an electromagnetic pulse, which I'm concerned about, and every war gamer is concerned about, that if we would go to war, that, you don't need to launch 100 missiles to destroy the United States. All you need to do is launch one at the right altitude and explode it there, and it will cripple our power grid and all of our computers. All of our infrastructure is gone overnight. Well, the same thing with a solar flare. And for $300 million, you can protect it. And Congress said no. Why? Why would you possibly say no to that? That's chump change.
I mean, there could, I guess, disagreement on whether it would work. Maybe some people think that it's not the...
Among the scientists, they seem to think it's absolutely necessary. And
you can get down a bad road with this stuff, though, right? I mean, because this is the same argument the left will use for global warming. Well, even if we're not 100% sure it's going to happen and go out of control, it certainly is worth the precautionary principle tells us that it's worth.
But that's global warming,
and you're talking about spending $10 trillion as opposed to $300 million.
You're bankrupting the entire world on global warming, and global warming is a theory. This has happened before.
This is a fact. We've seen it happen, and it's going to happen
again. This is not
eventually.
man-made or anything else. This is going to happen. Mm-hmm. And we are so vulnerable to it, and the Earth or the sun is starting to go into a very active stage. I mean, it's crazy that we're thinking about, that we're discussing it. We know what could... Tell me what you can do that's going to affect global warming, Stu.
Oh, I mean, there's no cost-effective way to even... I mean... Even if you could come up with
this is $300 million, and all the best minds say they think this will work. I'm willing to give, I think this will work, a shot. I'm willing to do that.
Well, you can't. But the problem is, though, where would you get that money? It's not like you could find $300 million of waste in the government to get rid of. To pay for that.
We run such a tight ship. There's just no way.
$300 million is probably in somebody's desk in Washington.
Uh-huh.
Well,
there's probably like, what can I do with $300 million? I don't know. Just put it in the bottom drawer for now.
Let me find $100 million for you.
Okay.
$100 million, Alaska. $29 million for a new harbor, and a $75 million airport. Brand new.
For Anchorage, probably.
No, the Aleutian Island village of Akutan.
Oh, Akutan. That's, of course, what, 1.3 million people
Island
live there.
Village of...
It's about 1.3, 1.4
okay, well,
million.
No, wait a minute. Hang on just a second. Maybe there's a lot of fishermen.
Yeah,
so they're getting a lot of fish, and they're bringing them into the harbor, getting them right over to the airport.
Yeah.
Then they take them, and fly them.
This is a good expenditure because there's so many people up there, and they're so productive.
There's been I guess a little bit of an exodus. People have been moving out of town.
Really?
A little bit recently.
How many are left?
There was 1.4 million people at one point.
Right.
It's dropped a little.
It's a new $100 million harbor and airport. How many people live in town?
Just down to 75.
1,000? 700?
Not
50,000?
7,500, not 75,000, but just the 75.
75 people.
75
maybe,
people.
wait a minute, maybe they're all truckers. All 75 are truckers. And they're going to the harbor to load up the fish and bring all of that fish product.
These are the best fishermen in the world.
These are the best fishermen in the world, and these are the best 75 truckers. They just get those trucks on the road, bring them right down to the harbor, and then...
there's one minor problem with what you're saying, and I'm glad you brought it up. There's no roads that connect the town to the airport or the harbor. No roads. You can't get there. You can only get there, you can only get to the harbor by boat.
And you can get to the airport how?
By boat.
Or by plane.
Or by plane.
All right.
Okay. Yeah. And also, the harbor has no electricity, no running water. The only way to access it is by boat. and the population of 75. But there are some seasonal workers who do go there.
Oh, how many? Like 2.5 million
let's see.
seasonal workers?
There's a seafood fish processing plant.
Okay.
And there are 1,000 seasonal workers.
1,000. Okay.
So that's a lot.
You're talking a maximum, even if all those people decided to move there full time, of 1,075 people.
So when does this airport open? It doesn't have any electricity, running water.
Well, the harbor doesn't have electricity.
All right. The airport does?
The airport.
You don't really need. You don't really need harbors to have phones or electricity.
No, for what?
Yeah,
You need a dock, right? That's all you need.
That's all you need. You don't need a road, right? You need a place you can pull the boat in and then just stand on the dock and go, I'm here.
It's here.
I'm here.
Oh, I should also point out there's no flights going in and out of the airport. Is that an issue? There's no flights. It's
No
not being
flights?
used
Well, no, you
at this
at
point.
all. Okay.
There's no flying. There's no flight landing at this particular airport. They have proposed 12 flights per week.
12 a week?
Yep, 12
That's
a week.
That's almost 2 per day.
And the good thing, like
Almost. Not
Almost.
quite, but
almost
like one and
one on the one
third,
two
or one and a
on the
half.
weekdays because of all the
Okay.
traffic. The good
All
thing
right.
about this is, it costs us $100 million of federal stimulus money. But the good thing is, if they get these 12 flights per week, those flights per week will only cost the government between $811,000 and $1.1 million in ongoing costs. So you get that first, investment, and then
So like I was saying,
more jobs.
we can't find the $300 million to protect the power
we
grid.
run too tight a ship here. Too tight
Well,
a
that
ship.
ship happens to be in a harbor right now where there are no
Where
roads.
there's no roads to get to it. But there's a lot of fish in the ship, I'll tell you that. Lots of fish.
Lots of fish. But no fish were hurt in the telling of this story. We just want you to know. Tonight I'm doing a special show on pretty much that. Stop preaching to the choir. And really it's to us, not to you. But I had some eye-opening experiences this weekend.